Hello, John here, and today we're recording a little bonus video. As you can see, we're looking at some FNM at home, and it's been going on for a while here. I've been playing it quite a bit. We've only got a few hours left in the event, and I wanted to take a moment to talk about these little side event, these little special events that Wizards does on Arena, and talk a little bit about adjusting to the meta. I think these formats, while they're pretty limited, and sometimes the structure of them is such that they're clearly meant to eat your gold. I think that they're a little bit unfairly maligned at times. And these FNM at home events, being free events, they're a particularly good example of that. You're not putting anything in. You can get a little bit of a bonus by staying in touch with your LGS, showing them your records. I know I've been doing this every week, getting a few cosmetics and sleeves and whatnot, but really just, again, keeping in touch with my LGS. But I think they highlight a little bit of an opportunity for folks to improve their game, an opportunity to have a little bit of a better attitude towards a game. And we're going to talk about that a little bit while we play a little bit of Artisan today. So Artisan, if you're not familiar, this is a format that I grew up calling Peasant, which is basically a standard legal version of Pauper where you're allowed to have uncommon. So let's take a look at the deck I'm running. Tonight we're running this mono black deck here. The basic idea of this deck is hating on the cycle meta. This format has Zenith Flare, which is a super powerful card, and frankly should not target. Shouldn't have the phrase any target. Let's actually take a look at Zenith Flare. This card kind of defines limited to an extent as well. It's an uncommon for 2 red, white. It's an instant. Zenith Flare deals X damage to any target, and you gain X life, where X is the number of cards with a cycling ability in your graveyard. The important part here is that there's a ton of cards in the format with cycling 1. So if we take a look at Ikoria, here we've got Flourishing Fox. You'll see a lot of this in the format as well. A 1-mana 1/1 that whenever you cycle another card, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it itself has cycling 1, though normally you're not going to cycle this card. This is one of the few that you really want to stick on the board. Dranith Healer gains you some life whenever you cycle. Valiant Rescuer. Now this one's cycling 2, but it gets you 1/1 creature tokens whenever you cycle another card. Let's take a look at some other ones here. This Vantasaur, I've never seen anybody cast it. I've seen it cycled a million times. Ominous Seas. Now this is a kind of a cool build around in the format, where you essentially cycle 4 times in addition to your normal draws, or cycle 5 or 6 times, and you end up getting an 8/8 creature, and you can do that over and over again. You don't sacrifice the enchantment, important aspect. And holy cow, look at that art! Look at that Kraken! Wow. So anyway, there's a ton of these cards. Dranith Stinger is another one you'll see. This one pings you every time your opponent cycles if they have Dranith Stinger on the board. Footfall Crater. So just a ton of these cards with cycling 1 in the format. Sorry, taking a drink there. So really, you have a ton of these cards that have a little bit of utility, or in the case of the Fox, in the case of Healer, Stinger, kind of a lot of utility, and it's very easy to free roll these, and then you just cast a single Zenith Flare here. Oh, don't want to add that to my deck. You cast a single one of these usually and win the game. So you cycle through a third of your deck, you take a handful of turns to do so, find a good opportunity, and blast your opponent for, usually something like 14, 15, 16, something like that, with your incidental damage from your creatures. So a lot of folks really not happy with this format because of this card. You also see a lot of counter magic. You see a lot of spells-based decks with small creatures that care about the spells. And I think that folks play this kind of format, if we go back to the format here, you're only playing for 2 games. So folks see a very quick, easy out. This is an event that's available for literally 1 day. And so I think it's really easy to hate on this kind of format. But if we take a look at this deck here, this deck is adjusted for the meta, really focusing on how do we get rid of these cheap, aggressive creatures, and how do we gain some life, and how do we get rid of the major cycling issues. And we do that by hating on those cheap creatures with cheap pieces of removal that gain us a little bit of value, gaining some life with some devotion mechanics, Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Obviously, this card can just one-shot your opponent in the right situations, but more likely it's going to gain you just enough life that you can stick in the game long enough that all their cycling and other payoffs don't really matter. And then we have some graveyard shenanigans with Soul Guide Lantern. A lot of opponents will cast a Zenith Flare right into this card because they don't necessarily know what it does. You tap it, you exile the graveyard, they deal 0 damage, and they spent several turns building up to a payoff that just doesn't end up paying off. So let's go through the deck here. Hateful Eidolon. This card can be absolutely nuts in this deck. Gains you a little bit of life if you get it down right away and attack, and those little bits of life do end up mattering in the long run when you're playing against some of the pingers in the format. Deadweight working with Hateful Eidolon. One of the best draws I've ever had in this format was Hateful Eidolon, turn 1, turn 2, cast another 2 Hateful Eidolons, turn 3, follow up with a Deadweight and a Mire's Grasp, both of which are going to draw you a bunch of cards with the Hateful Eidolon on the board. And most of the time your opponent just kind of concedes in that situation because you've gotten a 3-for-1 or a 4-for-1 in the extreme cases, but most of the time it just kind of makes your cards better cyclers. Deadweight killing a creature and drawing you a card is just better than anything in the cycling deck, really, in most scenarios. Soul Guide Lantern, already talked about that. That's going to, in most cases, get rid of 1 card and then draw you a card at some point. But in the decks where it really matters, the spells-based decks that want to have a certain volume of spells in their graveyard, the cycling decks, this just eats the yard for next to nothing. Timuret, Chosen from Death. This card also eats the yard, gains you a bunch of life. Yark's Fenlurker. This is going to give us a little bit of extra devotion for our Drag to the Underworld, which in most cases is going to be 2 mana, instant speed, kill spell, which is pretty sweet, as well as Grey Merchant. We've got Mire's Grasp, which we talked about earlier. We've got Grim Dancer. This card's just very flexible. Only have a couple in there because really we're looking to remove creatures right away, but getting Death Touch Menace, Death Touch Lifelink, anything like that is usually pretty good. Davriel gets us some value in the long run. Elspeth's Nightmare, I just have 1 of in the deck right now. Actually, could probably cut something. You could see I'm running 61 cards. It doesn't really matter, honestly. It doesn't matter that much. Elspeth's Nightmare, I think you can make a case for running 2 or 3 of these, honestly. I've just been a little bit lazy to update the deck. And then the last thing we haven't talked about is Underworld Dreams. 3 black mana for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to that player. So this is going to pump up our devotion for our Devotion Matters cards. And then for the cycling decks, this is just going to kill them. They're going to cycle through their entire deck trying to get to Zenith's Flare. And in a lot of cases, they just cannot afford to be as aggressive with their cycling as they need to be. So they just end up burning themselves out with Underworld Dreams. Especially if you get a couple of these down, usually you'll end up casting a single Grey Merchant of Asphodel to take your opponent out of the game or get them out of reach entirely. Then we're running some Swamps. Really love this art, by the way. Adam Paquette. Ooh, so good. And then Witch's Cottage, running 4 of these. Honestly, you don't get value off of it that often, but when you do, it's going to be devastating. So anyway, let's take a look at some games here. See what we're up against here. All right, we've got Hateful Eidolon, we've got Deadweight, we've got mana to cast our spells. We really just need to get a third land. This is a great keep. Particularly if we end up playing against any kind of creature-based deck. This is going to end up being pretty good. Okay, might be a mirror match. So we'll just get in, pass the turn. It's looking likely that that's the case. No third land, which is unfortunate. Do have some instant speed removal here. I mean, if our opponent's not going to play anything, okay, well, I guess a win is a win. Although I do prefer to play Magic, so we're going to hop right back in there. I don't think the game was over, by the way. That was a perfect example of scooping too early, which happens all the time on Arena. You know, I was missing a land drop for 2 turns there. Most of the spells that I could cast, they didn't have a creature out, so my opponent really could have just kept drawing cards for a little bit. Yes, I was gaining some life. Yes, I was ahead, but honestly, that was a bit silly. All right, we'll keep this as well. Not ideal, no Eidolon to go with this, but we'll gladly cast a land and pass. Cast a land. Play a land. I've been playing this game for 20-some years. I know you're not casting lands. All right, white deck. That's pretty good. We'll kill this pretty much immediately. I'm fine with that. Do not even want my opponent to get any opportunity to do anything with that, and we're just going to use our mana here, even though we're giving them a lot of info by playing the Soul Guide Lantern now. Okay, I've got another land. Not ideal here, but we've got a blocker. They're not going to... Well, they'll probably attack, actually. We won't trade here. I think we'll let them attack. We'll hope they don't have a counterspell, and we'll cast one of our Underworld Dreams here. That's pretty good. They're going to cycle now. I don't think they really needed to do that quite yet, but that is fine. And they're not going to attack. I actually would have maybe considered trading there, but let's just do this. No attacks here. Ping them for 1, and now every one of these they want to create, they're going to take 1. Every life they want to gain with Drannith Healer, they're going to take 1 from the Underworld Dreams here. Depending on what they play, we might just cast a second Underworld Dreams. We might get the Davriel down. Sure, you can have a 1/1. They don't really have good attacks with Timuret here. And I could see them splashing for the Zenith Seeker, so we're not going to, or for Zenith Flare, so we're not going to crack this quite yet. Okay, so we got a couple options. We can hold up mana to eat out of their graveyard here with our Timuret and hold up Underworld, drag to the Underworld, but actually I think maybe we'll do that because it's not as common to see the blue-white version of this, and I do think they have the cycling counterspell here. That's fine. We'll give them another creature. That's totally okay. Now, it may be worth actually killing this thing now. Let's just go ahead and do that. They could have Quench. We can pay for Quench. You often see Quench in this format, but now they don't have the 3 mana, 2 mana cycling counterspell up, so we'll go ahead and keep them from getting that value there. And Underworld Dreams, by the way, just hitting them every turn anyway. Okay. They're going to keep getting counters. Now, I could totally see a version of this deck that's running some Mass Pump. We've got some 4-mana pump spells they could use to give their team +2/+1, but I'm going to assume they're just building up their creatures here. And the nice thing is we always, yeah, they do have red here, so they have Zenith Flare for sure. So we're going to keep Zenith Flare up. Or we're going to keep the Lantern up for Zenith Flare for the entire rest of the game. But we'll eat some creatures, gain some life here. Really no reason for us to not keep Soul Guide Lantern. Mire's Grasp. Okay. What do we want to do here? They probably have Quench again. I would assume by keeping 2 up, they have Quench. So I don't want to drop the Underworld Dreams quite yet or the Davriel. So we'll just Mire's Grasp here. They could have Negate as well. That card is played. Startling Development. Huh. I don't think this is really going to do what they think it's going to do. They kind of just threw that away. So we'll pass the turn. And the creature will die anyway. And then we'll get to eat it at the end of their next turn. Yeah. So things didn't work out exactly how our how our opponent wanted to see them work out there. All right, let's keep jamming some games here. We get to go first again. I almost don't care what my hand is as long as I have stuff to cast in this format. So we're going to hope we get value off of the Lantern. We're going to hope we don't draw a ton of lands here, but you know, we'll take one more land anyway to make sure we get to our Gray Merchant at some point. But okay, probably another mirror match here. And I say that relatively confidently because you don't see, other than blue-black control, you don't see very many. Okay, we got blue-green. I was going to say you don't see very many decks that are that different here, but Skull Prophet, we're going to see another Skull Prophet. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's offer a trade. They're not going to take it. And I like gaining life, so we're going to do Death Touch Lifelink here. I've not seen much Golgari in this format, so I'm really interested to see what they do with Skull Prophet here. I would like to draw any of my removal for that thing, though. Okay, no removal yet, so let's just offer more trades. I'm okay trading Grim Dancer with a Mana Dork here. Maybe that's not the best move, but I think it's worth it. Okay, we could pump the Fenlurker. Let's get a Timuret down instead. And we'll pass the turn. Okay, Reanimator. Interesting. And Cycling. Ooh. Ooh, that is spicy. So we've got a interesting Cycling Reanimator deck. I have not seen this yet. So I'm kind of interested to see what they do. They don't have... Oh, no, they do have enough mana for an instant speed Reanimator. Okay. Well, I don't think that does what they want it to do. We're going to just eat their graveyard here. And now they've sacrificed their creature for no value. Yes, that was nice. Thank you. And our opponent scoops. So it's important to it's important to read the cards on the battlefield. Again, you know, Timuret just kind of dumpsters on half of the format. So I think, you know, obviously this is a casual format. I don't want to give my opponents too much grief here. A lot of folks are just hopping in for a couple games. So it's not like you should really expect everybody to know all of the different things that are going on. Holy cow. This hand is awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't be too great. this happens occasionally. Folks don't like the mulligan, I guess, so might as well just concede, huh? I don't want to give my opponents too much grief here, but I think the point kind of still stands. I think folks give up too early on Arena. I think folks make some bad assumptions about the format, and they play just a couple of games here and there, and they go, okay, this format sucks. I don't want to learn it. I don't like playing against this flash cycling card, and as you've seen, there is a pretty good amount of tech that you can use to get through this. So I think the whole point of this is give your formats a little bit of time. It takes some time to learn standard. The difference being in standard, you probably put a bunch of money into it to learn the format. That's not necessarily happening here, but still kind of do we want to kill this thing, or let's get a card out of their hand? Let's just use the mana a little better. I know next turn I could go Fenlurker, Deadweight, a second creature, but I kind of just want to see what my opponent's doing here. So anyway, don't play two games of a format and decide that the format sucks. I don't think you can do that for any format in Magic. Yes, these formats are limiting by design. There's a pretty small amount of stuff you can do within the format, and that is definitely a limitation. But you know what? It's not exactly fair to say that the format just sucks because you've played one game of the format, 2 games of the format, 3 games of the format. Especially when you hear pro players talk about how for example, just the sample size, right? Pro players will often talk about how small the sample size is. My opponent's getting impatient here. Okay, I'm going to get greedy with this attack. Maybe throw my creature away. Okay, they'll take it. That's fine. And let's just nerf that. I don't want to throw 2 enchantments away on that quite yet. But yeah, I think give it some time. Take some time to learn the format you're playing and build your deck around those limitations. Now I'm okay with using a second Deadweight on this. They can keep smacking me for 2. Let's use our mana a little better. I want to set up for a Gray Merchant that just completely demolishes them. Now, I will say, to the credit of folks who don't want to take the time to learn these formats, I think just like a TV show where you have to spend a whole season to really get into it, I think it's fair to say that maybe we don't want to spend hours and hours learning a format that we're going to get to play for only a couple hours here. That's totally fair as well. Let's just kill a creature and move on with our lives here. So I think the feedback I'd give to Wizards of the Coast is when you have these interesting formats like Artisan, where people only get a couple opportunities a year to play them, maybe we don't need to have those formats around for a single day or a single week. What do we have in our yard here? We can get a Fenlurker back. I'm going to play this. I don't think I want the Fenlurker, but I do want some Death Touch lifelink. And we'll hope they don't have another fight spell. Or that they miss that it has Death Touch. That would be okay too. Ooh. Samut. So let's see here. They're 2 mana off from pumping up the air inks. So I'm going to try... This is just until end of turn. Yeah, I'm going to block this one. Take a little bit less damage this turn. Okay, still need 1 more land. So we're going to deal 2 with the Underworld Dreams. If we get a chance to cast Grey Merchant, we'll gain 8. So we do have basically 1 turn here. They could have Double Strike, that instant that gives Double Strike, and then we're just kind of done. But if we survive this hit and we draw land, I think we've got the game. Now we're dead to any kind of burn, which there's a good chance they have. Ooh, well, that will not do it. We'll cast our last spell. Good game. Okay, opponent, finish us off. I think they're trying to play around certain removal, but in these kind of situations, okay. That's fine. We'll just concede. My philosophy is kill your opponent with the minimum amount of game actions you can, but obviously they were, I think, playing around a couple different types of removal, so no harm, no foul there. So yeah, this was a format that in high school, my group of friends actually played a format very similar to this for quite a long time. So I would be totally cool with this kind of format sticking around. You know, either this or Pauper sticking around a little bit more. Swamp's a pretty good draw. We'll hope we're not playing the mirror here. We're not. We're playing blue-black control of some sort. Pass the turn. Ooh. Whisper Agent. So now we've got the choice to make. Do we want to get our Underworld Dreams down? Or do we want to kill a Whisper Agent? If they're surveilling, let's get our Underworld Dreams down. Not quite sure if that was the right move. We're going to take 3 as a result. They could also have a bunch of counter spells up so we don't get to use our removal. Notion Rain is... I think that we're fine with that. So I'd be wondering if we're going to see that enchantment, the Surveil enchantment, but you know, hopefully we'll just burn them out with this Underworld Dreams before that matters. Yeah, we are playing a Surveil deck. Okay, so we'll just kill both their creatures next turn. And we'll see if our opponent scoops. Let's do that. And there's a case to get our creature down. So the Phantasm's not going to attack for a little while here. But I do think there is a chance they get to Surveil enough that it falls out of the range of our Mire's Grasps. I think let's just do the safe move here. Kill both their creatures, pass the turn. I'm just not as concerned with landing a threat when my opponent's playing a blue deck that plays everything main phase, and they have surveilled payoffs like Thoughtbound Phantasm. Not super concerned with getting my instant speed value. Okay. So we got 2 Grey Merchants here. They probably have counter magic up at this point, so let's just get our Grim Dancer down. And we'll see what they do end of turn. They've got something. It could be another one of these Tyrant Scorns. Yeah. That seemed like a turn where they might hold up. Essence Scatter, Tyrant Scorn if they had it. So I didn't really want to drop the Gray Merchant, and I wanted to hold up mana for Quench. Okay, well, now we don't have much of an option, so we'll just cast our Gary. And if we get to resolve another Gray Merchant, the game is over. I love this card, though, Nightveil Predator. Maybe at some point I will have to do a video to show you my my really stupid 140 card Reanimator deck that plays Nightveil Predator. That's the other thing I like doing with formats like this, is just see, like, what can I get away with? Okay, so our opponent still probably has the 3-mana Surveil counter available to them. And their stuff has hexproof, so we don't have a ton of options here. Although they're considering playing something now. I'm kind of wondering if my opponent is considering, okay, they're going with it. So they don't have counter magic up, and we will burn them out. Nice to see a little variety there with the Surveil. Okay, let's try to see one more matchup here, and then I think maybe we can wrap the video up. I think I made my point. Really, give yourself some time to adjust to the meta, and also Wizards, maybe let these things stick around for more than a day. I think a lot of players, especially if they don't take Artisan seriously the first time around, it's kind of a slow hand. We'll keep this. If they don't take it seriously the first time around, they're probably not going to keep a deck that they can sort of tweak the next time around. A lot of times when these smaller events come up on Arena, if you have a deck already that kind of works, you can just go update it with some stuff from the new set. You can take a look at the meta. You can adjust your deck. Obviously, that doesn't work quite as well if you're really more in it for the jam a couple games, go home sort of vibe, which is totally viable. I don't want to come off as though I'm saying that you have to play Magic this way or that way. Really, more my point is that there is something to be found in formats like this. Okay, so we're playing against Boggles here. This is not really a great matchup. Not a great matchup here, because they're never going to tap this Paradise Druid. They're going to put eyes on it, and then I have to chump it for the rest of the game. Let's just do some Death Touch here, so that we at least have one blocker against this. So they'll probably follow this up with Setesian, whatever, the 2-mana enchantment to draw a card, and then they'll give it eyes. Siona. Let's see what Siona gets them. Wouldn't mind getting Sentinel's Mark. So a little different version of the standard style Boggles here. So when Siona enters the battlefield, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal an Aura card from among them. Put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library. So they got the Sentinel's Mark. Whenever an Aura you control becomes attached to a creature you control, create a 1/1 human soldier creature token. So I think we kind of want to kill Siona to keep them from getting tokens, but I think it's okay for us to attack here. Get some damage in, gain some life with our Grim Dancer. They're not going to block this for obvious reasons. And now, let's see here. We could get the Underworld Dreams down, but that's not going to be fast enough. So let's just get an Eidolon down as an additional blocker. They have something for 1 mana. I'm not quite sure what it is, but might be indestructible, actually. It might be one of the number of white instant indestructible spells, but I'm guessing not. Or they might just value it more highly for the Paradise Druid. I guess I could have saved the Drag to the Underworld for their turn. Probably would have been smarter. And there's the Setessan Training. Now, does this make it do damage equal to its... Okay, it just gains lifelink until end of turn. Okay. So they're going to smack us for a little bit of damage here. gain 4 life, I guess. We could take it. That's fine. I really do think Hexproof is just a stupid ability. Really is not. There's very little value to Hexproof. I wish it did not exist. That said, we're not going to complain that much. We'll give our Timuret a big butt and just block forever. I do think they still may have some instant speed, 1 mana, white indestructible trick they're saving for their druid. I think where we get in trouble is if they can chain Sentinel's marks here, because we can chump, we can block with our Timuret. They probably have the... Really what we need to watch out for, there is a 2 mana enchantment that they... Most likely they're going to have now. Yeah, all the glitters. So if they can give their creature flying, that's going to be a real problem. It's not going to be a problem if we can block with our Grim Dancer. Again, they may have the indestructible trick, which we'll find out if they attack. I think if they attack, that means they have it. All right, we'll eat that. Gain a life, why not? Do we have anything we can get back? Okay. Let's attack with the Grim Dancer. Do we play the Witch's Cottage? Why not? Okay. Gain lifelink, that's fine. We will chump, that's fine. Our opponent does not need to hover over every single card over and over again. This is really annoying, honestly. Oh, they have trample, don't they? Okay, whatever. So you can just do this. This is annoying. You should not, if the game sees this behavior in you, it should just stop. This is really stupid. Distracting, completely unnecessary. So thankfully our opponent's flooding out a little bit here. They could be running the fairy. Okay, we got another all the glitters. 15-15. Sure, why not? Do we have indestructible? I think we do. We have another Timuret, so I'm going to block just to eat up some damage here. I really don't want to die to some sort of additional trick. So there's Karametra's Blessing. So we would have... Well, we wouldn't have been dead quite yet there, but I would like to not... I would like to have a little bit of a buffer here. Let's play another Timuret, and we'll just pass the turn. We are kind of in a rough spot here, where we have to block. I don't think there's really a possible way we can win here, because we don't have... This deck doesn't run any enchantment removal. We have no sacrifice a creature sort of stuff. Opponent's at 20 life, so we're done here. Yeah. Good game. All right. I can't go out losing to Boggles. Let's play it one more time. Here's where we play against Boggles again. I really do think Hexproof is a stupid ability. It's not fun. I don't think it's a good design at all. But that said, it is really not that common to lose to Boggles in this format, in my experience. We'll keep this. Hopefully our Eidolon will get us some card draw. Otherwise, it'll just eat a removal spell, which is okay as well. Sweet Lightning Bolt. Sleeves here. Grim Initiate. I think even though they're going to amass 1, maybe we just attack first. They're really not likely to block here, but do we get a guaranteed card and let them have their amass, or do we get a card via our Fenlurker? Knowing that we're going to play Davriel next turn, I kind of want to get another creature on the board. Yeah, we're not going to block the Initiate next turn, but there's a good chance they play something better. Okay, they exile another Initiate. There's a chance they play something better here that we want to get rid of. Okay, Omen of the Forge is going to kill our Eidolon. So we kind of lost out there. That's fine. I think it's okay to kind of eat their hand. And then there's a good chance our Davriel dies next turn anyway. In which case we've eaten either spells, we've eaten Omen triggers, we've eaten some sort of damage, which I think is probably acceptable here, knowing that next turn we can double removal spell if we need to. So let's get a card. I don't think there's a high chance of Davriel living as an enchantment here. So let's just eat a card out of their hand. So our opponent's going to get two creature tokens out of this anyway. So that's totally fine. Oh no, they're not, because it gives it -1/-1. Okay, not bad. We'll save the Fenlurker in case we get an opportunity to pump it and make it a better blocker, a better attacker. And if our opponent wants to use a spell on it, that's okay too. Yeah, that's totally fine. Now that is not fine. I think that is a way we lose, is just our opponent drawing spells while we draw lands, which, there we go. So we have a 3-turn clock here. They can crack their Omen, which actually I'm not quite sure if they want to crack that per se. Okay, well, we'll take this opportunity to kill the Annex, buy us a bunch of time, or I should say a turn, more likely. I think it'd be okay if we run Grey Merchant into Grey Merchant, but we're pretty far behind now. And our opponent gets to draw 2 for no mana, basically. Okay, well, this doesn't really do much. That's not in their hand, and our opponent just has lethal on the board. We're not even going to make them deal with it. They have a pump spell, they have lethal. So sometimes you lose to mono red, sometimes you lose to mono black. But we'll wrap it up there. Again, I just really wanted to make my point that, yes, these events are a little bit limited, particularly these free ones for FNM. It's not that much of a an investment to get into this kind of thing in Arena. Even the paid ones, I think you have to take an event by event analysis of how much they're charging in gold or gems. What are the kinds of rewards you can get? Sometimes, again, on Arena, they end up being, kind of more of a gold drain, but sometimes they can be a pretty good way to spend an afternoon or two. And again, particularly these free ones. So the takeaway lesson, again, give yourself some time to adjust to the meta. Don't make those snap judgments and say, this format's horrible. I played my 2 games and got out of here as soon as I possibly could. You can't play any format for 2 games and know that the format is good, or know that the format is bad, or know that you like it or don't like it. That's just not really fair, I think, to the game, fair to yourself. I think there is so much already in Magic that is worthy of your criticism, that this kind of thing is really just a silly thing to complain about, until you've put in some reps. And, like I said earlier, it is not necessarily fair in all cases to say you've got to put hours into this before it's enjoyable. That's just like any kind of movie or TV show. That's not necessarily going to be fair. It's not necessarily going to be what you want. But, when we're talking about 2 games of Magic where, your opponent can curve out right, your opponent can just go first and have the right draw on the play versus you being on the draw, it's just such a small sample size that I think you kind of owe it to yourself, if you want to spend any time at all with it, to spend a little bit more time. And then again, to Wizards, these events like Artisan, don't expect people to give you great feedback when you're building a format where it's get your rewards after 2 games and we're going to have it for 1 day, so you don't necessarily have the time to actually enjoy the format and learn what's in it. So anyway, hope you had fun watching some of those games. Hope you check out this deck if Artisan comes back around, and have a great day.